If anything should happen to me, you must go to Gort. You must say these words. Scotto, zombie takeout, Nikto. Please repeat that.
Scotto, Barad, Nikito.
You must remember those words. What's up? Welcome to episode 333 of Zombie Takeout.
Zombie Takeout.
The B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some sort of listener submitted. I actually don't know if they listened to the show, but after I watched Deathbed, I recommended it to a couple of friends. And well, one of them got back to me and said that they confirmed that that with the help of some what in Jersey is medically legal enhancement, the movie is, quote, a pretty amazing experience.
I felt that I was not sufficiently chemically stimulated.
Yeah, alcohol probably be pretty good too.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it, but I think I'd enjoy it a lot more if I was toasted.
Of course. And of course that brings us to this week's movie, which is from 1951, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and of course the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Paranoid Radio Hosts. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
And also, excuse me, good sir, do you have a minute to talk about our Lord and Savior, Klaatu?
It could have been a little more obvious about that.
So, in Washington, D.C., post-World War II, a spaceship lands pretty much near the mall. And, of course, it sends everyone into a panic. They immediately assume the worst.
As they do.
Right. Although, I would think if they meant harm, they were going to make their presence known in a different way.
Mm-hmm, true.
There's no landing in a park and hanging out. It's fucking, blasting shit.
Well, unless it's like the V approach. I mean, they started off peaceful.
Yeah, the V approach didn't make any sense.
Fair point. Yeah, if you've got the firepower and you mean to break shit, just go ahead and do it.
The Independence Day approach made a lot more sense, where although it gave us far too much time to react.
Yeah.
But that could have just been overconfidence and what are these, monkey people gonna do?
And they didn't know we had Macs.
Or as what I say is, that's right, the Mac. I said one group has interstellar capabilities, the other still uses push pins.
Yeah.
Wonder who I'd put my money on.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, he finally comes out of his spaceship after, I think a couple days. Which I don't know if I would have done that either if I were on the mission that he's on.
Right.
And just before he says we come in peace, he extends out a gift, but it did look like a ray gun in all honesty.
In fairness, it looked kind of like a probe.
Yeah. And so he got shot. So he's greeted by a, I guess you could call it a South Side cheer. I don't know. But He's taken to a, quote, hospital. Well, actually, Walter Reed, which closed not that long ago. Where he's pretty much, I could say he's a, quote, guest. They're pretty much taking
a guest of the
prisoner.
state.
Right. They take him prisoner. They ignore what he's come here to do.
Even though they've seen him walk out of the ship.
Right. They know where he's from. They know who he is. And they don't really give a fuck. In fact, I'm not really sure what... The president doesn't even show up to talk to the guy.
If that had happened, I'm pretty sure all of the world leaders would be on the phone.
Well, yeah, this book, the original story was, of course, written before the Cold War really took place. So, I don't know.
But even if it happened in '86 at the height of the Cold War, if a spaceship sets down in on the mall, Russia is still going to be on the phone.
Although, in fairness, in this point, this is like 51.
Mm-hmm.
Shit was pretty crazy
Yeah,
back
fair
then.
point. Fair point.
I mean, they were only 6 years away from the end of the World War II,
Right.
and of course there were creeping into Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Should we allow them? Should we go back to
Yeah.
war? I mean, there was a lot of that going on
Mm-hmm.
in the late 40s and all the way up into the 60s.
Yeah.
So, what happens here is everybody pretty much ignores the alien except for scientists. And, of course, mostly the scientists are ignored too, but
Mm-hmm.
he calls
Or things
together a
change.
meeting. He calls together a meeting of the scientists. The army is like, oh, sure, okay, you can do it right by this UFO with this robot bodyguard wandering around, just doing whatever he pleases. And well, he gets his message out finally, and hilarity ensues.
Well, he also stays with this woman and her kid, and
Well,
she
yes,
lets him
the
babysit
kid.
the kid, even though she doesn't really know him. It's a weird.
What a bunch of dicks! They're like, oh, it's convenient for us. We need to go out on vacation or for the weekend. Yeah, of course, this complete stranger can watch the kid. And then when it's no longer convenient, it's, oh, should he really be with him now?
Yeah.
Fuck those guys, both of them.
But rolling back to the beginning of the movie,
Yeah.
you just don't hear enough theremin these days. The theme song is like half theremin. It's like theremin and orchestra. It was awesome. And I
Yeah.
really liked the tilted block letters. They're block letters with a drop shadow and all that, but they're tilted back, which looked really cool.
This movie has just been parodied so much that we lose sight that
Yeah. This was the
once-
original.
yeah, there was once something seriously done like this,
And
earnestly done.
And I liked these international conversations at the very beginning. They kind of go over around the world, and people are talking about the landing and all of that. After the ship lands, of course.
Right, it's very.
Well, no, actually, it wasn't after the ship lands. It's after they're supposedly, they think it's a meteor, like, speeding towards Earth that's going to destroy the planet.
Well, right. There's all sorts of international conversations throughout the film.
Yeah.
When the alien escapes, when the electricity goes out.
Yeah.
And it is neat to see that it isn't just Western centric or even Eurocentric. It pretty much goes.
Yeah, except they wanted the leader of the world, and they landed in DC.
Well, after World War II, I
Mm.
mean, London was still rebuilding.
True.
Germany and Japan. Oh my God!
I would think maybe Geneva, but I will say that the spaceship effects were very cool for the time.
And where the hell could they have landed in New York if
Yeah.
you wanted to be by the UN?
Right.
I mean, Central Park,
But
maybe.
Yeah. But the ship comes in, it's glowing and has a really smooth landing. Doesn't look that big of a deal now because we have CG, but these were all
course.
practical effects in 51, and it was, for the time, incredibly cool.
It was pretty neat seeing DC from like 60-something years ago.
Yeah. Could have done without the sped up crowds running away from Gort, though. This is one shot. Gort, the big robot, walks out of the ship, and they cut to the crowd running away from him. Understandably. Except the
Yes.
footage is sped up like Benny Hill style.
So you're saying you needed some yakety sax to go with that?
It would have fit.
Okay.
I also liked the acting because I think we talked about this with Psycho. This period is very presentational, typically.
Oh yeah.
Very naturalistic in a lot of cases in this. I mean, it was a little bit presentational here and there, but it was more naturalistic than I was expecting, especially Michael Rennie.
The only presentational guy was the boyfriend, Hugh Marlowe or Tom Stevens.
Well, Tom was his name. Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael Rennie. I mean, watching it, I was like, is this really gonna be any good? And then I think about halfway through it, it was like, this is totally kicking
Yeah, yeah.
ass.
And a lot of it
he
is down to Rennie.
he is really fucking
Hmm.
good. I mean, he kind of loses his whatever accent he's
He
trying to do,
his accent slips occasionally. He was British. His accent does slip out occasionally. I
but
do.
it's not like he's from around here anyway.
Right, right. True, true.
So, say if he just listened to
Right.
different
That's a fair point.
learn different languages, maybe some words would have
Right,
the accent.
right. And I do like the reference to his New England accent.
Yes. I'm like, what? Did you recognize Aunt B from
No, I didn't.
Beverly Hills or from Mayberry?
No. Okay. Now that you mention
the
it,
mother.
I do recognize her. Yeah. Right. In hindsight, I remember. I gotta give credit to the pacing, because 20 minutes in, they're right into the story.
Oh yeah.
None of this half hour to get everything set up like they do now, and it made me realize like not a lot of the characters were really fleshed out. But do you need to do that?
No.
Do we need backstory on the doctor who took care of him in the hospital? You know.
I think we got the backstory. Pretty much, we everything was in the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Like Helen. We find pretty much. I mean, we don't know what happened to her. The father of her child.
Right.
But they kind of were like, oh, you're courting kind of thing. She's just in this weird situation where she's a single mom in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And then we pretty much see right away that Tom's a jerk.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I did like the idea of diamonds as currency, because they said they don't break and they're easy to carry.
Yeah.
Except they were cut. They were cut diamonds, which seems odd for a culture other than human. If they did cut them, they wouldn't cut them to look like they were meant to be set in rings.
Well,
they'd
I
either
don't know.
be raw or they'd be, disc shaped or something that would make more sense as currency.
Who knows what they would have as for? Well, yeah, it's true.
Those were typically, diamond shaped, quote unquote, cut diamonds that were meant to be set in rings.
Yeah, so I don't know if you were to use diamonds as currency, how you would use it.
Now, there's a bit of an elephant in the room that we've alluded to a little bit, but in a 95 interview, producer Julian Blaustein explained that Joseph Breen, note that last name, the film censor installed by the MPAA at 20th Century Fox, balked at the portrayal of Klaatu's resurrection and limitless power. At the behest of the MPAA, a line was inserted into the film when Helen asks Klaatu whether Gort has unlimited power over life and death, and Klaatu explains that Gort is only revived him temporarily, and that power is reserved for the Almighty Spirit.
Now, I thought, as soon as I heard that line, I thought of you. I'm like, John is going to hate that.
Well, no, I mean, if I hadn't read this trivia first, I would. I'll be honest.
And then to see that in the trivia afterwards, that's hilarious that they had to do that because of the censors.
Of the elements that he added to Klaatu's character, screenwriter Edward North said, "It was my private little joke. I never discussed this angle with Blaustein or Wise because I didn't want it expressed. I had originally hoped that the Christ comparison would be subliminal." The suit he stole from the hospital when he escaped was from a major carpenter. I believe his first name was John. Yeah, and it's all over the movie that he is basically a Christ figure.
The overall story is just so similar of this person giving up his life, from another world and coming to us to just say, hey, just be nice to people. Don't be such assholes. Yeah. Or really, if you want to sum his whole message is, that shit can work while you're down here.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you go that shit
step into our yard, you're going to get beaten down.
Gort's going to come back with some friends and fucking torture planet. Have a nice day.
Or to quote a line that I've always liked, my right to throw a fist ends at somebody else's nose. Our right to kill ourselves ends when we bring that to other planets. We start fucking around with other planets, they're gonna shut us down.
I mean, he should have been a bit like, and I've only spent a couple days here, and I've been shot more than
Yeah,
once.
exactly.
The fuck is wrong with you people?
Yeah.
I said I come in peace, and then you shoot me.
Well, that was one guy with an itchy finger, who was obviously very nervous and, underprepared for the situation.
Right?
Although, yeah, I have to question Klaatu's judgment when he's asking a kid who the greatest man in the world is.
I thought you were going to say you're going to question Katu's judgment for not just torching the planet then and there.
And the fact that he asked who the greatest man is very indicative of the time.
Oh, right.
Just like landing in DC. And all of Gort's eye effects, which were laughably 50s.
I mean, obviously this movie should have really ended with, you guys are fucking maniacs. have a nice life, which is the next 20 minutes.
Yeah. By the way, it's based on a 1940 science fiction short story called Farewell to the Master. In the story, the robot named Groot was the Master, and Klaatu was merely a series of doubles or maybe clones that died after a short time. So the twist on the story is that, we all think that the robot is the servant, and turns out the robot's the master.
Yeah, I read like the outline of the story, and I was like, wow, this is one of those cases where the movie is way better than the source material, is it?
And there were a couple of moments that I absolutely loved with regard to science and reason and how it was viewed in the 50s. At one point, Klaatu's giving a short interview to a newspaper, and they don't know he's the alien. He's just some guy they're talking to. And he says, how and he criticizes the people for substituting fear for reason, and the reporter just walks away, just cuts him off.
Look at the time.
And then the scientist who eventually comes over to his side says, science is too often ignored or misunderstood. So relevant today.
Yeah.
Apparently those things haven't changed. I did like the line, it isn't faith that makes good science, though. It's curiosity. It isn't faith that makes good science, Mr. Klaatu. It's curiosity from the scientist, whose name I'm blanking on.
Oh, Professor Barnard?
Barnard. Thank you. That's it. And I liked his delight at the music box. He's sitting in this boarding house that he's staying in, and he sees this little music box. It's a very short little bit of business at the end of a scene. He just opens it and the music plays, and he kind of looks at it curiously, picks it up and smiles. And you can't tell if it's like a novelty to him, like he's never seen anything like that, or if he just thinks it's really quaint.
Yeah, it could be a mixture of both. I don't know.
I get the feeling it's just something Rennie improv'd because they needed a little bit extra at the end of the scene.
There's so much they cram into this, though. I mean, the trip with the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, to Arlington Cemetery, and he's just. I mean, come on, you walk out of that, and you're just like, oh yeah, this planet has a chance.
Yeah.
Like you have like all of these, like the realization that for every stone is a body. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's very subtle with it. It's not a very like over the top, oh my god sort of thing. It's just kind of like oh, these people are fucking crazy.
And he points out, yeah, we have cemeteries, but they're much smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has more plot than most 2-hour movies we've reviewed.
Oh, yeah. They cram a shit ton in just 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I loved how he was communicating with Gort with the flashlight. Because he wasn't just, getting his attention or just doing like, a Morse code thing. He was actually communicating, like telling Gort what to do, basically.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if you think about like fiber optics. And, the way the light works with computers. It makes sense that Gort would understand flashing lights.
You mean he didn't have like a punch card to like give to Gort?
Well, it wouldn't have surprised me if one came out of that visor.
I mean, a punch card back then was probably futuristic.
Yeah, I think that was a 70s thing, maybe a 60s thing.
Yeah, 60s thing.
Loved the interior of the ship. I think the man who fell to Earth must have borrowed from it.
I couldn't help but notice in Wikipedia
Mm-hmm. I was just coming there.
that it was designed. I mean, I liked it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, this isn't like cheesy or anything.
Yeah.
Fucking Frank Lloyd Wright?
Collaborated on the design of the ship, yep.
uh, that's insane. The Frank Lloyd
Yeah.
Wright just, put together a set for for a movie.
Yeah, and not just a set piece. I guess it is a set, yeah.
Just a couple of,
It's basically a room, because I get the feeling the actual, like, cockpit looks more like a typical 50s, spaceship. But the sort of hallway with all the sort of balls on the wall, the part that really reminded me of the Men Who Fell to Earth, that had to be right.
And they took inspiration from his design of the Johnson company's headquarters, which they've been offering bus rides for us in like the Chicago area to go and tour on the weekends, and we've been really thinking of doing it as soon as we have a chance, so weekend free. So yeah, it looks like real Clockwork Orange, crazy 60s shit. Which, I mean, considering this was done, that was designed before this movie, that's crazy too.
Yeah.
That he's like 20 years ahead of his time.
By the way, this was the first big-budget science fiction film to be released by a major American studio since Just Imagine in 1930.
Wow, I'm not even familiar with Just Imagine.
You gotta look into that. But 20 years between science fiction films, at least in America. I think this was the same year as the Man in the White Suit. If I recall correctly. It's a good year for movies. I loved the way Rennie casually spoke the alien language.
Yeah.
Because he must have, I don't know if he made that up off the top of his head, if it was just gibberish, or if there was or if they were lines. If they were lines, he spoke them like he actually understood them. I need to see more of his work.
Definitely, he was the Sandman in the original, Batman TV series.
Okay.
I only think he may have done a couple episodes as it, but I mean, you're talking about 15 years after this.
Yeah. And was the mother, whose name, again, I'm blanking on characters' names, was she trying to gaslight her own son when she said, she was trying to convince him it was a dream, that when he followed Gort, or followed Klaatu and saw the ship? She's basically telling him, no, you didn't see it, it was a dream. She's practically trying to gaslight him.
I think it's just a common thing.
Maybe.
Kids say crazy shit, and you're just like, no way. It wasn't until she just caught that, his shoes were all wet from being outside, that kind of like oh fuck.
And of course, his big plan to prove, his power is to shut down all of the electricity in the world.
And yeah, while it's happening, I'm like, aren't people in planes going to
exactly what
crash?
I thought too, because he said he's going to do it when they were talking about, you need to show your power in a way that's not destructive. It's not going to hurt anybody. And then they shut all the power off. I'm thinking, how is that not going to hurt anybody? And then they explained that it was selective. They kept it on in hospitals and on planes and such.
Because he was just that good.
Yeah, exactly. They were that powerful that they could be that, they could call the shot that well. And when they were on the way to the ship, passing all the jeeps, there was a great sense of tension that really didn't feel like a 50s movie. And even the pursuit when the jeeps were coming after them, it felt very modern.
You were just like, what's he waiting for? Why is he just letting him pass all the checkpoints?
Mm-hmm. By the way, the army refused to cooperate after reading the script. The National Guard, however, had no such qualms and gladly offered their cooperation. And there's a line toward the end when he's, finally delivering his mission, his mission statement, his, message. That's what I was looking for. And he says, they don't have war anymore in his world, so they've moved on to things that are more profitable. War is pretty fucking profitable.
Yeah.
So we keep having them.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's been the game all along, hasn't it?
Mm. Just the line kind of caught me off guard.
But I mean, they're thinking back in, I guess, a more innocent
Yeah,
time
I
where it's
guess, yeah.
like, you know,
Hmm.
such cost of life and everything, and
Yeah.
in reality, there's a lot of people that make money on war.
So he just drops that bomb and pieces out. After, Gort resurrects him and, the military's tracked him to the ship, and he says, you're going to kill, basically, well, not you're going to kill yourself, but if you commit any violence outside of your planet, Gort and basically the robots that they built, one of which is Gort, are their police force, and they're going to shut you down. They'll actually obliterate you, is his exact words.
Something about turning your planet into a cinder, I
Yeah,
believe.
exactly.
Is what he
Yes,
said.
yes. And then he just pieces out.
Right. It's like, you could have just delivered that message without
Yeah.
even visiting everybody.
Hmm. Oh, one last bit of trivia. Michael Rennie was ill the day the Earth stood still, and he told us where we stand. I had to do that. On the sequels and remakes.
On sequels and remakes.
There was a 2008, I'll say reimagining, because that's the only reason Keanu Reeves agreed to do it. He apparently hates remakes. It starred Keanu.
How the fuck do you have Keanu Reeves replace Michael Rennie?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who thinks that? Who thinks, who we could put in this part?
Yeah.
Some dude who couldn't act to save his fucking life.
From what I read of the plot summary, the story is actually pretty close. Except in that version, in the reimagining, he says that humanity is the threat to humanity. It's not this, alien, robot police force.
Yeah, I mean,
humanity is basically going to kill itself if you don't slow down.
That's, okay. we don't need Alien tell us that.
Yeah. And I think The Arrival was way earlier than 2008, when they said, if you don't tend to your own planet, you don't deserve to live here. Or if you can't tend to your own planet, you don't deserve to live here. That's the line. On the brains?
Who would you rather see?
Oh, okay, we're recasting.
The remake of this.
Oh,
because
wow. Okay, I got it. Maybe because I just watched both Prometheus movies. Fassbender.
I was thinking maybe Defoe.
Ooh, okay. Interesting choice. More alien, although Fassbender does a good android.
Yeah, that's true.
Fassbender's maybe a little more predictable than Defoe, yeah.
And this planet's gonna go down in a firefight.
Actually, what about Defoe as the scientist?
Maybe.
A little against type. Of course, nobody else really matters in the movie.
That's
the scientist barely matters. It's all Rennie, and it would all be clad. It's all clad too. I'll put it that way, depending on who you cast.
Patricia Neal, and her Helen. I mean, she's
good.
She does. She does a couple different things here. I mean, she's of course the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Then she does like the scream queen kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. True.
And then she has her famous Bruce Campbell moment.
Mm-hmm. But she's not an integral part of she is kind of an integral part of the movie, but it's really all about Klaatu. She's
the only grown up I'm fucking used to about this planet, though.
That's true. Yeah, maybe you do want to put a good actor in that role. This is insane, but consider other things she's done. Milla Jovovich. Consider other things she's done outside of the Resident Evil movies. I think she'd fit.
Yeah, I could see that, actually.
Or maybe ScarJo. If she can get away from all the action stuff. Because there's really no action for Ellen in this movie. On the brains?
On the brains.
This movie is an absolute classic for a reason. It's for its time, it was a masterpiece. I really can't criticize it now. 70 years, 67 years later. 70 years later, 60 years later. Nearly 70.
We're 66.
Yeah, nearly 70 years later. I can't criticize it. I'm going 5.
Yeah, this you really would have to really nitpick to find something to take anything away from it. And even then, I still don't think it would detract from the movie. So yeah, easy 5.
Yeah. I didn't think anything was going to change my top 10, which I worked out weeks ago. I totally forgot about this movie because this is the second time I've seen it. Yeah, this did affect my top 5.
Yeah, I think it may have affected mine too.
Or my top 10, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't want to go that far. All right, so what have we learned?
Isn't a train without tracks a car?
Yeah. And as I've said a couple of times this week, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
All right, so until next time, when we'll be reviewing Forbidden Planet, part 2 of our science fiction double feature. Go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review in order up through 2 weeks from now. So we need to work some stuff out for next year.
Yeah.
And
it's good to have something open for 18, you know?
Well, yeah. We got to decide what we were going to start with because we always go big in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, of course, the recommendations list. I should have known going in because, again, I've seen it and it is an unmitigated classic. One of the best. I'll say one of the best science fiction films. I won't necessarily say the best.
Top
5.
Easily.
Yeah. Of course, you can email us zombietakeout@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-CTO1 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
Klaatu yourself.
414-368-9061. Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
I am leaving soon.